Hello everyone, Bashar here. Some new champions have been added to Raid in March, so let's take a look at them. So first off, we have Sylvan Watchers support champion, Spirit Affinity. Let's take a look at him. Grandpa with the oaken beard. So the first skill, so they have been doing these quite a bit, increase cooldown on ally, increase cooldown on enemy, decrease cooldown on ally. They have been doing this quite a bit. So his A1, when booked, has a 50% chance to reduce a random cooldown on an ally by 2 turns, I suppose. Okay. Ally attack fully restores destroyed max HP and places a continuous heal buff on allies. So of course this screams Fahrenheit, and the good thing is he himself joins in the attack, which means another hit on the shield. But the thing is, with Fahrenheit you don't want a really prolonged fight, right? I mean, it destroys our destroyed max HP, we know, which Fahrenheit does, and also heals us. But the thing is, you want to break the shield and you want to get him down as quickly as possible. That's not what you want. I mean, from the ally attack skill, you want something that's a little bit offensive instead of, being defensive like this. But it's not a champion to complain about for sure. He's okay. Invisibility is okay. And he can be useful in all the finite rooms in Sintranos. 20% turn meter fill, debuff remove, and increase speed. So this is similar to Elva. The difference with Elva is that he doesn't put up block debuffs, but fills the turn meters by 20%. I would say it's comparable and probably slightly worse. Right? In Sintranos it could be even better, but in PvP, I'm not very sure, of course. It is pretty close, but I would say block debuffs is better than 20% turn meter. But definitely not a champion to frown upon when you get it. And he does an interesting thing. He has a passive on a 1-turn cooldown, which means it will trigger every other turn. So at the beginning of his turn, he puts a buff on each ally. Attack champions get an increased attack buff, defense champions get an increased defense buff, support champions get an increased accuracy buff. And the hypocritical part of this is, by the way, he is a support champion and he doesn't use accuracy. So he himself doesn't benefit from his own passive. And the HP champions get a 30% shield on them. Well, that's not bad at all. I wish it could have been booked to 0 turns, right? So, I mean, triggering every other turn is a bit weird. And they have also considered put a speed aura for Fahrenheit, right? 25% dungeon. So those of us that do suffer in Fahrenheit Hard 10, because it is one of the requirements to grab the new horse fella. It is in the 3rd set of missions, you will have to do Fahrenheit Stage 10 Hard, Stage 10 Hard on auto. So he's definitely a decent ally attacker for that place. That's the first champion that has been added. The second champion is the High Elf Unity champion, I think. Yeah, you can tell from the flashy icon on their aura. She just looks like a little bit of an epic that's been reskinned or something. She doesn't have the legendary vibe. I don't know why I'm saying that, but that's... And she probably will not be shard obtainable unless other than special events. And I was not as impressed as I was with Aislinn, but Aislinn of course wasn't that groundbreaking in Arena, right? We have not been seeing him anywhere. Okay, let's take a look at it. The A1, yeah, increases cooldown. So 70% chance of increasing the cooldown on the enemy, right? And when counterattacking with this skill, and there will be something that will make your counterattack, as you can guess, teams up with a random ally. I mean, that is pretty good, right? I mean, you are doing some bonus damage and triggering this ability maybe, and you are also getting some bonus damage in there. That's pretty nice. Second up, she's a magic affinity support champion, by the way. I have not Discussed that from the High House faction. So this is nice. Places a block debuffs, a block damage, and a counterattack buff for 2 turns. That's pretty good, right? Single target though. And if she does not do this on herself, it also resets to cooldowns. So this is major Hydra vibes, right? You do it on Nut, you do it on Acrisia, you do it on your base nuker, and you also reset the cooldowns. That's pretty good. And this skill's cooldown cannot be decreased by other skills. They have finally thought of this. I wish they were able to think of it about this with Yumeko, right? Pretty nice, 3-turn cooldown. I like it. And if you get lasting gifts or a buff extension, they kind of become permanent if you keep using on the same ally. Okay, so this is the faction unit skill, and the passive will have faction unit as well. So 50% increased attack, 30% increased crit rate, and 30% crit damage on everyone, right? Gets booked down to 3 turns. If there is one high elf on the team other than herself, she gets an extra turn. If there are 2 high elves on the team, she removes all debuffs from all allies and then places the buffs, which means your stuff will not be blocked by block buffs, for example. And if you have 3 high elves, the buffs become protected. Right? It says cannot be removed, but I am gonna guess they cannot be stolen or transferred either. They can be blocked, but the thing is, because this skill will remove block debuffs, so technically they can be blocked, but in reality they will not, because she removes that kind of stuff. And thing is, the ability gets empowered by faction allies, but it works for everyone, right? It doesn't say removes all debuffs from all high elves, right? It says from all allies. That's not bad either. And the thing is, this is on a 3-turn cooldown, and as I said, if you have a buff extender, you can build your entire team, if we are talking about Hydra, with 70% crit, right? Because if you have a buff extender, these will become permanent, and as I said, like Bellanor, you can build your entire team with 70% crit rate, which will make room for more main stats and for more crit damage, so you can deal more damage, or for your support champions to be more survivable. Well, you do not build your support champions with 70% crit, but anyway, let's take a look at the passive. So this is pretty good. The second part is especially pretty good. So whenever an ally gets buffed, they get a 3% turn meter fill, right? When allies attack out of their active turn, which means they counterattack, right? Like this, they deal 25% more damage, which will kind of negate the 25% damage penalty from counterattacking, or whatever it is that's extra, right? Not bad. Whenever a buff, so this is, guys, Nekmotar energy, right? The reverse Nekmotar. This is not debuffs but buffs. Whenever a buff is removed or stolen or expires on an ally, they get 10% turn meter fill. And imagine you do this, right? You play a little bit, you do this again, it will, of course, override your old buffs, right? That will mean those buffs were removed. They get turn meter, like 30%. This is an insane Hydra champion, but of course, finding multiple high elves that you want to bring to a Hydra fight, let's say Royal Guard, maybe Bellanor if you have, you will have a hard time finding a third. I mean, maybe Arbiter, but that team will become severely gimped, right? Because then you will have to, bring the provoke somewhere. You will have to block buffs, blah blah. Lots of stuff is going to be required, right? But in theory, it's nice. And allies will ignore 5% of target's defense for each buff on them. This is, just insane. You can give 3 buffs here. You can get 3 more buffs here. You can give 6 buffs to a one specific ally, right? You can, and you will have the live arena bonuses. You will have your savage, blah blah blah. You would be, and if you have your crushing run, you actually would probably be ignored like 100% defense. I'm not very sure. So let's say live arena bonuses are 20%, I think. Savage is 25%, that's going to be 45%. On Nightmare, Hydra, Crushing Rand, if you have a 6-star, that's going to be 31%. That's going to be 76%, right? And let's say you also have Cruel, that's 5%, that's 81%. And if you have this passive and 4 buffs, full defense ignore. And you would be very surprised about the amount of damage that will inflict, right? It's insane. Because the thing is, guys, so I don't want to get very technical, but defense works in a way in which it gives you more when it's low, right? So 1000 defense from 0 is going to give you a lot of damage reduction, and 7000 from 6000 will give you very little damage reduction, right? So ignoring that last bit is insane damage added up, right? If we can find 3 high elves to bring, right, and have this guy, lady, we'll see, and the aura is 20% ally speed in all battles, not bad, and 15 crit rate for high elves only. So you can actually build your Bellinor, for example, with 55% crit, but that would of course be redundant because the thing is, Bellinor also does this himself. So yeah, a bit redundant. But if we get really nice high elves, right, that can be pretty good. So that is the high elf faction unit champion. I am, and the 0 revives here, kinda give me the vibe that she really is not poppable from shards, because there are a lot of people that open shards in the world right now, so someone must have gotten her. So Aislinn is not obtained from shards, save for special events, so I'm gonna guess Fyna is not obtainable either. So we have the, I think, 14th mythical champion now. When I say 14th, technically he's the 13th because the demon mythical is not obtainable in the world right now. It is going to be obtainable in about 1.5 months for the strongest players in the world. So we don't have an undead mythical champion right now, and we didn't have an Ogryn mythical champion, and the Ogryn mythical has arrived, so only undead remains without a mythical champion, and the next one would probably be undead. So we have Gizmak the Terrible. He's a support champion. He has max speed. 115 is the highest base speed that's allowed. Nice HP, okay defense. So let's take a look, and he has already been obtained by 11 people. Wow. They gave just 5 to everything. Yeah, he is rather good. So let's take a look at him. So the first ability, if they have HP burn, it prolongs the duration. If they don't have HP burn, it will reduce the duration of 2 buffs by 1 turn. If he crits, this effect cannot be resisted. So there will be a team around this with this champion. If you crit, this character does not need accuracy at all, which is pretty insane. Then he attacks everyone not under HP burn, except the initial target, so you do not hit the initial target twice, and does the same thing to everyone, right? Reduces the duration of 2 random buffs by 1 turn, and because this does not say remove but decrease duration, this is not subject to polymorph, so this champion will not get polymorphed. Okay, nothing he does with this ability at the very least is polymorphable. Second of all, we have attacks all enemies, again increase duration of HP burn, and this sounds a little bit weird, right? But the HP burn will come from the passive. Very interesting. So he increased duration of HP burn debuffs on enemies by 1 turn, and then activates, which means you will not lose any of your HP burns on the enemy. This is what Theodore does, and this effect cannot be resisted if this champion's crit rate is 100% or higher. So why does it say if you crit? It doesn't say this effect cannot be resisted if you crit, because it does it before attacking, so actual damage is not done, right? And it also saves you the Wicked, the shame of the Wicked with opposite affinity, force affinity champions. I'm gonna say Hydra heads because this guy gives the very big Hydra vibe, but of course he can be used elsewhere. And then increase the duration of all enemies on all enemies by 1 turn and place the decreased speed for 2 turns. And if he crits, these effects cannot be resisted. So, you know, red heads can be problematic, but other than that, it's fine. And this is actually very good, right? You prolong the duration of HP burns, you activate them, and then you put up decreased speed. This is serious damage, right? And you don't lose any HP burn in the process. And then we have this nice buff, increased crit damage, increased crit rate, and increased speed. This time the duration is 3 turns, which is magnificent, but the cooldown is 4 turns. And then grants an extra turn, which is, you know, these are just crazy stuff, right? You can build your entire team with 70% crit if you have a specialized team. And thing is, good Hydra teams have buff extenders in them, right? I mean, Krisk, Grazur, Taras, and Taras is a good Hydra champion, yeah. Big surprise, right? If you have a buff extender, these buffs will be permanent, which means you can build your entire team with 70% crit, which is insane, right? We have the form changing ability, and we have now the passive, because this is a little bit weird, right? I mean, all these HP burn synergies, where is the HP burn? Well, the incredible thing is the HP burn comes from the damn passive, right? At the beginning of the combat, right? If he has 100% crit rate, he puts an HP burn on everyone that is not resistible for 2 turns. And this is actually, this has some PvP value, right? Because HP burn is a serious stone skin counter now. So it's not very good, but when it's mass, it's big, because thing is, when you activate the HP burns deal quintuple damage, which means 5 times, right? So instead of 3%, they deal 15% damage to targets under stone skin. And when you activate it on all 4 targets, it's going to deal 60% damage. And when a champion under stone skin takes more than 50% damage, the stone skin wears off. Which means you start with this passive, you do this ability, bang, no one has stone skin anymore. And everyone has taken 60% damage. This is not even counting the damage from this ability. So yeah, that's a bit good. And this is only at the beginning of combat. But, you know, mythicals have been, you know, designed, let's say, meticulously, right? They don't, you know, screw themselves up like that. So for the rest of the combat, he does it for the entire enemies for 1 turn and 50% chance. So at the beginning of the fight, we put a guaranteed HP burn on everyone, right? Well, it's not guaranteed because it can be blocked, but you know what I mean. It's irresistible, and 2 turn duration, and on everyone with 100% chance. And from then on, a 50% chance of a single turn duration HP burn on everyone. 50% chance. And it can't be resisted at all. So this form is quite magnificent in its own right. And the nuker form is the HP form. Looks like a, you know, torrent from Warcraft. Nice HP, nice defense. Crit damage is a little high. The speed is a little bit slow, but I mean, it's not very bad for a nuker for sure. So let's see. And he is HP and defense based in his alternate form. So it's an HP champion, but he also scales off defense. And when it says, when it states like this, guys, HP and defense, that means he is based on HP, but defense is also a contributing factor. So HP is the main guy. Defense helps. Right? That's what it means. The order has some sort of meaning. So it's not random, right? It wouldn't be the same thing with defense and HP, right? You cannot change the orders. HP first means HP has more contribution. So he attacks one enemy. If this guy's HP or the original target's HP is equal or lower than 50%, he attacks everyone, right? Which will probably work all the time on Hydra, right? Or something close. Then increase duration of 2 random debuffs on the target by 1 turn. And if he manages to attack all enemies, he does it for everyone, and they cannot be resisted again if the strike is critical. This champion would have gained so much if he was void, right? Beautiful. And the original form also is a very good counter for the Poison Cloud debuff, Poison Cloud buff that the Hydra does, because he does the HP burns without hitting. Second of all, we have attacks all enemies, place an increased defense on himself, which means increased defense on everyone. Oh, sorry, my bad. I misread. There was an increased defense. Nope, I am making things up. Okay, anyway, sorry. He puts up a decreased defense on other enemies, and the thing is, because he does this before attacking, he actually will deal more damage. And the debuff cannot be resisted if they have HP burn on them, right? And then he does also another extra hit on enemies under HP burn debuffs, which is, insane. So first of all, you do a decreased defense that's guaranteed, and then you also place an extra hit. So if they have HP burn, your damage goes like up by 4 times or so. And he gets an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. That sadly will not work on Hydra. In Hydra, you don't kill, in air quotes, anyone. You just decapitate the head. It does not count as a kill, right? I know this because I have used a lot of, if this strike kills an enemy sort of champion, and it doesn't trigger, right? So at first I thought it was a bug, but the game treats you as, not killing, but decapitating the head, and that is something else in the game's eyes. And so we have a pain link. So the wording here is not very clear to me. So he does a pain link, right? That is what the head of suffering does in Hydra. He puts up a pain link debuff on a target enemy. It cannot be removed, resisted, or blocked. This is, by the way, very sick, right? The only way to not receive this debuff is to be wearing a stone skin set at the time, right? Other than that, you cannot dodge this, right? Attacker's skill multiplier, that is so weird. When calculated damage inflicted by the pain link debuff, 75% of the attacker's skill multiplier is reflected. The damage inflicted by pain link with the debuff will ignore 100% of target's defense. Does that mean he receives 75% of what he does? I am not very sure. But, suffice it to say, a damager will not be very, very happy to receive this debuff. So you are going to receive some percentage-based damage in return. And my Georgie does like 50k HP, and he can deal like 450k. And he wouldn't want, even 20% of the damage reflected in his face, because he will die immediately. So then he plays. So thing is, guys, you can say you can ignore this, right? Because the pain link will work only for the damage inflicted on this guy, right? You can say, okay, I will hit the other guy. But thing is, it doesn't end there, because as I said, mythical champions have been designed meticulously. He's very good. So he places a taunt on himself, which means you have to target him with every single ability that you use. Even AoE skills will have to first target this guy, then you can hit everyone else, right? It's not like provoke, but places a taunt and an unkillable, right? And the unkillable, so if it was block damage, it would have been a little bit counterproductive, because you would not be taking damage, so the pain link would not work. With unkillable, you take the damage, you just refuse to die, so the pain link would work. And finally, guys, just so you are not able to get out of it, he also places an ally protection on everyone, which means you AoE, right? Let's say you use AoE that deals mediocre damage overall, right? You don't want to hit this guy hard, so you do not die to the pain link. But because of the ally protection, 50% of the damage that this guy receives, everyone receives, is transferred to this guy, and they will be converted into damage that reflects with pain link. And as I said, pain link ignores all defense, which means if your enemy inflicts 200k damage, I'm guessing they will be taking 150k in the face and dying, right? Because it is not reduced by defense. This is the Metamorph skill, yeah. And finally, we have a passive. If this champion's HP or the target's HP is equal or greater than 50%, he will ignore 15% defense. If either has less than 50%, he will ignore 25% defense instead, which is extremely good. He has his own savage, or in the worst case, he has his own triple cruel or something. When he's attacking HP burn, targets under HP burn, he will also ignore block damage and shield. And if they don't have HP burn, he will inflict 20% more damage. And he has a crit rate aura in both forms, 27%. I would say insane. And thing is, you can actually consider this guy to be the leader, right? Because if you use him in support form, he has 30% crit rate buff, and he has a 27% crit rate buff here. That's a whopping 57% crit rate buff. And you have 15% base, and you have 5% from the mastery. That's going to add up to 77%. You know, your gear can accidentally complete the missing amount of crit rate. Yeah, I would say very good altogether. He really looks pretty good. Those are the champions that were added recently. So that's my take on them. I hope you get this guy, guys. He looks very nice. I would like to play test him. And so I will see you on stream. Bye bye.